Saud. So from there, give me the next, I want the next video. Saudi Arabia is still selling, it's a video. You can X this one out that you got up on the screen, you can X it out, I don't want it no more. Yes, right here. This is, I want y'all to listen good. Here's another sister. I just happen to be going through the videos. How long is this one? 3 minutes, 56 seconds. She has an accent, but listen good to what she is saying.
I don't know why many Saudi Arabians are treating Africans like this and getting away with it. As you know, this is not peculiar to Kenyans. Ethiopians are treated the same way. I've talked about this in the past. In fact, there are several pictures of Ethiopians killed in Saudi Arabia, men and women. But how come this is still happening after they deported thousands of immigrants from Saudi Arabia? How come they are still treating people like this? I found out that Saudi Arabia's sponsorship system known as kafala ties employment visas to employers. Indirectly turning.
Y'all see that article? Now to look, you always got to fact check to find out if some of these people is making stuff up. Give me the article that she posted. Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, real apartheid state. I had to check this out. I got to make sure we ain't going after something to be all fictional. She made something up. I said, let me check it out. That's it. Go up to the top so we can see. Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, real apartheid state. So now, if you notice, nobody, CNN, the Caucasian News Network, they never touch this stuff with them because there's big money in Saudi Arabia, oil money, okay? A country whose black population is deprived, we didn't even know, most of us did not know black people even lived over there, okay? A country whose black population is deprived of civil rights. Where are the boycotts? Yeah, where are the boycotts? Assalamu alaikums. Come on, you fake black Muslims. There is a country in the Middle East where 10% of the population is denied equal rights because of their race, where black men are not allowed to hold many government positions, where black women are put on trial for witchcraft, and where the custody of children is granted to the parent with the most racially superior bloodline, meaning Arab bloodline. This apartheid state is so enormously powerful that it controls American foreign policy in the Middle East, even as its princes and princesses bring their slaves to the United Kingdom and the United States. You'll see these Arab princes with black people, and oh, they're just their workers. They're their slaves. They are their slaves. Okay? That country is Saudi Arabia. United States don't say nothing. That's how you know the news media works for the government. Saudi Arabia abolished slavery in 1962. Under pressure from President Kennedy, who accomplished what the Ottoman Empire and the League of Nations had not been able to. But that hasn't stopped its citizens from selling castrated slaves on Facebook. Stop it. Stop. See, I had to go check. Click it, click it, click it. I had to click. So wait. What's she talking about? What are they talking about? Did it click? Did it go over? Okay, go down. Here's right. Go ahead. African slave, let me see the whole thing. Saudi offers castrated African slave for sale on Facebook. Saudi Arabia has an estimated 300,000 slaves in 1960. Slavery was then officially abolished, but unofficially continues to exist. Who says that the Muslim world isn't modern? Sure. They could hold old-fashioned auctions for African slaves, but instead they're leveraging the power of social media for their slave auctions. This is what it said. Now they translate the Arabic words there. Here. Peace be unto you. I have a male slave I brought from an African country and arranged for his visa and stay till I got him to Saudi Arabia. His description: 1, black skin, tall 172, I don't know what SM stands for. Is that centimeters? I'm not sure what they mean. It should be cm, I guess. Weight, 60 kilometers. I don't know what 60 kilometers, I don't know what that is either. Y'all look it up. Number 2, castrated. Excellent for working with a family. You can check in with a doctor or yourself if you have experience in the matter. Because anytime they had your slave work around the women and kids, they castrated you. Okay? This is what people don't even realize what they did to Daniel and the 3 Hebrews that was with him in the king's palace. You couldn't walk around with a rod, and you got all these women and young girls there. They castrated you. They always did that. Number 3, His health is quite undamaged and has no imperfections. 4, age 26 years. That's how old the boy was. His religion is Muslim, and he is obedient and will not disobey you except in what displeases God. Please, the matter is very serious and is not a joke. No, it's not a joke. Saudi Arabia had an estimated 300,000 slaves in 1960. Slavery was then officially abolished, but unofficially continues to exist. Because this Facebook thing was only a few years ago. Saudis who travel outside their country sometimes bring their slaves with them, leading to run-ins with the law. One of the ugliest such incidents was the murder of a slave by a Saudi prince in London. That's what I said. When Janet Jackson married that Saudi prince, she saw some stuff, but she ain't going to talk about it because she's getting big money from that dude. She's never going to open her big black mouth. Watch.
The American media is not going to say anything. You think she is?
She ain't going to say
anything. She ain't going to say anything.
The court had heard that the murder of Abdulaziz was the final act in a deeply abusive master-servant relationship in which the prince carried out frequent attacks on his aide for his own personal gratification. Jurors were told that by the early hours of February 15th, Abdulaziz was so worn down and injured, having suffered a cauliflower ear, you know when they jack your ear, like some wrestlers get that, and swollen eye from previous assaults, that he let Saud kill him without a fight. Saudi tried to cover up the true nature of his relationship with his servant, claiming they were friends and equals. But a porter at the Marylebone Hotel where they had stayed said Abdulaziz was treated like a slave. If progressives really cared about racism and sexism, they would take a hard look at the Muslim world. But of course, they don't. So let's go back to the first where we got that from. This is where we got it from, right? What article was that? Go back. I forgot. Go back to the top. Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, real apartheid state. Okay, now go back down. This is where we got it from. And we got here from the woman's video. Okay, now where were we at? Saudi Arabia abolished slavery in 1962 under pressure from President Kennedy, who accomplished what the Ottoman Empire and the League of Nations had not been able to. But that hasn't stopped its citizens from selling castrated slaves on Facebook, or its princes from beating their black slaves to death in posh London hotels. There's another article on that. The Saudis had clung to their racist privileges longer than anyone else. When rumors reached Mecca that the Ottoman Empire might be considering the abolition of African slavery and equal rights for all, the chief of the, Ulema of Mecca issued a fatwa declaring the ban on slaves is contrary to Sharia, which means Sharia law, with such proposals that Turks have become infidels and it is lawful to make their children slaves. So you go and be a Muslim if you want. But Saudi Arabia's oil wealth eventually made slavery economically unnecessary. Early on, African slaves worked for foreign oil companies which paid their masters, but they were a poor fit for the oil economy. The kingdom no longer needed agricultural slaves and pearl drivers. It needed trained technicians from the West, and international travel made it cheaper to import Asian workers for household labor and construction than to maintain its old trade in slaves. The Saudis replaced the 45,000 slaves of the 1950s, 450,000 slaves of the 1950s with 8.4 million guest workers. Hear that? Guest workers. That's a euphemism, thank you. These workers are often treated like slaves, but they are not property and are therefore even more disposable than the slaves there were. Exact numbers are hard to come by, but Nepal alone reported 265 worker deaths in Saudi Arabia in a single year. Human Rights Watch has described conditions for foreign workers in Saudi Arabia as resembling slavery. Meanwhile, the 3 million Afro-Saudis, that's Jake, are denied equal rights, prevented from serving as judges, no matter your education, are prevented from serving as judges, security officials, diplomats, mayors, and many other official positions. Afro-Saudi women are not allowed to appear on camera. There is not one single black school principal in Saudi Arabia. The Institute for Gulf Affairs, a Saudi human rights group, reported. Okay, let me go down to what's the word? Kafa'ah. Equality in marriage is used to establish that both sides are free from the taint of slave blood. You see that? The blood of, what's that word? Takuni, West African slaves, or, what's that word? Mawalid, slaves who gained their freedom by converting to Islam, is kept out of the Saudi master race. Where we heard that before? Through genealogical records that can be presented at need. Y'all missing it. Ishmael got the, what's the word? Genealogical records. They got all the DNA of the people there. That's why by the end of the class, there's a woman that did a video that says all those DNA things, it works with the government. And they line up all your DNA to find out who you really are. But they say they fabricate many of the results. So y'all keep playing with that DNA stuff. Give me the next, where am I going next? I'm leaving this now. Oh yeah, go back to the video with the woman, I'm sorry. Thank you. What you want, I thought?
No, I'm saying that shows that Ishmael still maintains their genealogical record. They know where they come from.
Right.
Ishmael still maintains their own records. They took ours, but they maintain theirs.
Exactly. I hope y'all understand that. Okay. So let's play, go ahead. So that's why we went from this part to fact check what she was saying. So go ahead.
Involuntary servitude to slavery. They do this to Asians as well. They would arrange a resident permit by recruiting agencies that match the worker to the household, and then they would charge both parties a recruitment fee. So now the workers will become indebted to the agencies. A typical work day for domestic workers in Saudi Arabia is between 15 to 18 hours in a day. Imagine somebody working straight for 18 hours in a day out of 24 hours, and they pay them about $5 to $7 per day. And guess what? Some of these employers would refuse to pay the employees for a long time. In fact, sometimes for years they may not pay their employees. They would say, we're giving you food, we're giving you a place to sleep, even if it's outside. They would say, what do you need the money for? So many employers have actually killed their employees if they keep asking for their money. There are no off days, no rest hours, there is no vacation, no nothing. As you know, slavery was officially abolished in Saudi Arabia in 1960. At that time though, there were about 300,000 slaves still in Saudi Arabia. Even though it was abolished on paper, hey, the practice continued unofficially. First of all, when will our people in Africa learn that the grass is not necessarily greener on the other side, and that not all the glitter is gold? I mean, we've been hearing stories like this for a long time, yet there are people who are still bent on taking their chances. As bad as it was for Joyce, she's actually very lucky. Very lucky, because several women were not able to escape for years. I've read stories of women who escaped after 2 years, after 4 years, and some were actually killed by their owners. Some men are treated the same way. In fact, 2 years ago, a Saudi man was advertising a male slave on Facebook, and he stated that they've castrated the man, rendering him impotent. This is the English version of what he said. So this is the thing. If you're not going to Saudi for tourism or for pilgrimage or to take up a professional job, please be careful. Please and please be careful. Again, I wish that African leaders would just develop our countries so that our people would not continue to suffer in the hands of such people in the name of searching for better life. And lastly, if you know someone or someone who knows someone who's desperate to get out of his or her country without knowing anything about where they're going, and please warn them to be familiar with where they're going. At least be able to speak the language of where you're going. Don't go anywhere because you got a contract from anyone. Really, Saudi Arabia, for how long would you treat Africans like this? And you know, I can't help but remember that hashtag that was started by Ethiopians when so many of them were being deported from Saudi Arabia. They had this hashtag called "Someone Tell Saudi Arabia." Someone tell Saudi Arabia that you cannot continue to treat human beings like this. Someone tell Saudi Arabia that just because the color of our skin is different from yours doesn't mean you're better in any way. Someone tell Saudi Arabia that the world is watching. We know what is going on. Someone tell Saudi Arabia that enough is enough. Someone tell Saudi Arabia that this will not go on for long. Someday, Africa will take its rightful place among the rising continents. Someone tell Saudi Arabia. Guess what? I'm just keeping it real.
So those of you that want to get jobs in Saudi Arabia, now you know. Saudi Arabia, Lavio just sent me this. The world's richest company is a Saudi Arabian oil company called Saudi Aramco. That's the richest oil company, and you got many people who go from parts of Africa to go there for work, and they end up as slaves. How come the Christian apologetics don't talk about this? How come CNN don't talk about stuff like this? You mean they didn't know about this with all their resources? They know, they accept that stuff. This is why they all, I'll say punish y'all or up. The Lord's going to punish all of them. But you all right. They all going to get it, all of them. Give me the next video. 10 facts. I want 10 facts. The Lord is going to destroy these nations. He's going to kill them.
That's what I meant.
That's right. You better accept that thing.
That is exactly right.
Okay, this is 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Let's play this. 10 facts about the Arab enslavement of black people. The number of black people enslaved. Can you slow it? You know I don't read that fast. I'm old. Estimates range from 10 million to over 20 million Africans enslaved by Arab slave traders. Go ahead. Number 2, Arab enslavers practice genetic warfare. Go ahead. 6 of every 10 black boys between the age of 8 and 12. Go ahead. Had their scrotums and penises completely amputated to prevent them from reproducing. Assalamu alaikum. The Caliphate in Baghdad at the beginning of the 10th century had 7,000 black eunuchs and 4,000 white eunuchs in his palace. Okay? Arab slave trade inspired Arab racism towards blacks. Arab is not a racial classification, but is more similar to the inclusive concept of American. In the beginning, there was mutual respect between blacks and the lighter-skinned Arabs. That was in the beginning. That's when they were trying. This is when, I'm going to tell you when it was somewhat peaceful. When we allowed them into our army, our militaries, just like what we did with the white men, we let the Khazars into our military and our courts, and they overthrew us. That's what happened. Go ahead. However, as Islam and the demand for enslaved blacks grew, so did racism towards Africa, meaning Israelites. Arab enslavers targeted women for rape. A Muslim slaveholder. See, these black women that will go out and marry Arab people, you just as bad as the ones that marry the white man. A Muslim slaveholder was entitled by, I'm back to Janet Jackson. She's our sister. We do pray that she can repent, Lord's will. But I know she's seen some ish. I know she did. Okay? And anyway, let me just read on. A Muslim slaveholder was entitled by law to the sexual enjoyment of his slave women. Go ahead. They packed harems with African women who were forced to bear their children. Concubine Arab babies they had. This abuse of African women would continue for nearly 1,200 years. Arab slave trade ushered in the European slave trade. The Portuguese got their start in the slave trade by acting as middlemen for the Arab slavers. They profited considerable amounts of gold by transporting enslaved Africans. This is the picture we just saw. These are Israelites. From one trading post to another along the Atlantic coast. The Arab slave trade sparked one of the largest slave rebellions in history. Zanj, and that word Zanj means black. The Zanj rebellion took place near the city of Basra, located in present-day southern Iraq over a period of 50 years. The harsh treatment of enslaved Africans in salt marshes. Can you look up Zanj for me? Yeah. Oh, you got it already? I just want to make sure. I'll be saying something wrong. Y'all be talking about me. Okay, the harsh treatment of enslaved Africans in salt marshes sparked the uprising. Go ahead. that grew to involve over 500,000 enslaved and free men. Arab enslavers avoided teaching Islam to blacks to justify enslavement. According to some historians, Islam prohibited freeborn Muslims. Pause right there. According to some historians, Islam prohibited freeborn Muslims from being slaves. That's why they waited until they got you as a slave. Then they begin to indoctrinate you, thereby justifying you being a slave and being Muslim. They waited. You could not be a freeborn Muslim and then they make you a slave. Go ahead. Z8. Oh, it was not in the interest of Arab slavers to convert enslaved Africans to, well, later on they did. Only children of slaves or non-Muslim prisoners of war could become slaves. Never a freeborn Muslim. The Arab slave trade was the longest yet least discussed of the two major slave trades. It's the least discussed. It predates the European transatlantic slave trade by 700 years. That's why Ishmael gonna get it. Ishmael gonna, like the song. A brother made a song, Ishmael gonna get it. Yawan, right. I forgot the name of the song. What's the name of that song? Death Before Dishonor. They gonna get it. Everybody gonna get it. Some scholars say the Arab slave trade continued in one form or another up until the 1960s. Now we know it's 2007 even to this day. However, slavery in Mauritania, we read about them last week, was criminalized as recently as August 2007. The Arab slave trade allows more upward mobility than the European slave trade. There are documented cases of enslaved Africans who were granted freedom. Get freedom with no rob. Some went on to become army generals and famous poets. They had no choice. They couldn't get a woman. Arab slave trade was not limited to Africa or skin. One of the biggest differences between Arab slave trade and European slaving, go ahead, was that the Arabs used slaves from all racial groups. Yeah, but predominantly they got us. During the 9th to 10th century, most slaves were European. Wait, stop. During the 9th and 10th century, most slaves were European. The Moors had them. Now, remember in Job. Remember in the book of Job. Give me, I'm trying to remember, Job 30, where it said in the bushes they braid. Because the Muslims they're talking about during the 9th, 10th, those are our people, the Moors. And we had white people as slaves.
Job chapter 30, verse 5. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief.
We chased the white man like we chased a thief. Go ahead.
To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth.
That's why they were in the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia.
And
because we drove them there.
And in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed. Under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth.
The white man was viler than the earth. Who's saying that? Our forefather Job. Go ahead.
And now am I their song.
Now we're their song. Why? Because they're in the power seat. We're the slaves now.
Yea, I am their byword.
I am their byword. They call us niggas. And abd. Aitan, what you got for us?
Go to Wikipedia for Zanj. Two places. Wikipedia can be subject to change, so I'm going to use two sources if you don't mind. Zanj Wikipedia first. Our education goes beyond Wikipedia, by the way. I was just using it because it's convenient. Meaning, it says Zanj, Arabic or Persian. Zanj meaning land of the blacks. That goes back to what we know of as Negro land, where Israel was. We went over that in the class way back. Was a name used by medieval Muslim geographers. So the Muslims named that area land of the blacks as they saw Israel was there, among Hamites. Referred to both a certain portion of Southeast Africa, primarily the Swahili coast, and to the area's Bantu inhabitants, that's Israel among them again. This word is also the origin of the place Zanzibar, which is also a slave trade post as well. Zanji is of unknown derivation, but the appellation in Persian is roughly equivalent with Negro. That's what Zanj means. It is recorded in Arabic as Zanji, and in Turkish as Zanki, whatever, Zanchi, I guess. The Latinization, Zenguium, is an archaic or old school name for the band of East African coast in modern-day Kenya and Tanzania. In the modern day, the architecture of these commercial urban settlements, blah, 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 go to Botanica now. Go there now. So it's got the point. Zanj is black. Black rebellion, Negro rebellion, black rebellion, same thing. Zanj rebellion, a black slave revolt against the Abbasid Caliphal Empire. Arabs, a number of Basran, you said that earlier, Basran landowners had brought several thousand East African blacks into southern Iraq. That's what they're called, Afro-Iraqis. Zanj are also referred to as Afro-Iraqis. To drain the salt marshes east of Basra. The landowners subjected the Zanj, who generally spoke no Arabic, a language foreign to our own, to heavy slave labor and provide them with only minimal subsistence. In September 1869, Ali ibn Muhammad, a Persian, Iranian again, claiming descent from Ali, the fourth caliph, and Fatima, Muhammad's daughter, gained the support of several slave work crews, that's us, which could number from 500 to 5,000 men by pointing out the injustice of their social position and promising them freedom and wealth. So this Persian guy wanted rank. He wanted to basically overthrow his people with our help. That's what he wanted to do, because he was subject to, I guess, low status as well, even though he was outside of our people. Ali's offers became even more attractive with this subsequent adoption of Qajarit, religious stance. Anyone, even a black slave, that's Zanj again, could be elected caliph, and all non-Qajites were infidels threatened by holy war. This is part we want. Zanj forces grew rapidly in size and power. That's us again. Absorbing, watch what we did, absorbing the well-trained black contingents that defected from the defeated caliphal armies. So you're part of Arab armies, you mentioned that earlier. We were in the militaries. And so, along with some disaffected local peasantry, so some other Arabs and Persians as well. But the point is that the Zanj were Negroes, and the slave revolt took place, and you had ex-black slaves who were in Arab militaries fighting and so on and so forth. All right?
Praises. All praises. Give me the next article about Arabs hate. You can X out of that. You can exit. X out. Give me the article about Arabs. Right. Arabs hate black people. This was posted in 2013. They don't think a black can be Muslim. This is by somebody named Nekka Bell. Therefore, the Negro nations are, as a rule, submissive to slavery, because Negroes have little that is essentially human and have attributes that are quite similar to those of dumb animals. Those of dumb animals, as we have stated. That is from Ibn Khaldun in 1377, one of the greatest Arab minds ever. So that's a quote from a book, okay? You can write his name down, Ibn Khaldun, if you doubt what is being said there. Arab Muslims do not tell their black friends that the word for black, as in a black person, is Arabic, is slave. This means that if you are a black man, your Arab Muslim friend would describe you thus. A man walked into the store, and he was searching for you. He was a well-dressed slave and wanted to buy some French fries. Wow. To all blacks who fell into the trap of Islam to avoid white supremacy. This is what the woman was saying. How we run from white supremacy to Islam. That's what, to Arabs. That's what many of us have done. That's what Farrakhan and them have done. Okay? To all blacks who fell into this trap of Islam to avoid white supremacy, please know that not only are you in danger of being the butt of a joke, but your spiritual life is in jeopardy. Furthermore, you are only being subjected to Arab supremacy, which is like jumping out of the frying pan, rolling around in breadcrumbs, and lying right back into that pan. Many blacks began as Baptists or other denominations and had very good morals and respected women. But then they joined the Islamic faith, which is no faith. Now, why do many of us do that? Because under Christianity, you see white images everywhere. We're being oppressed by so-called white man. So we said, listen, we need something with people of color. So we joined and became Muslims. Okay? Abu Bakr, a black Muslim from Sudan, says, Moroccans cannot believe many of us are Muslims too. According to him, people are surprised when they see him kneeling for prayer. They don't think a black man could be Muslim. Black African guest workers, you know what a guest worker is? A slave. Black African guest workers in places like Egypt, Algeria, and Libya have spoken about being publicly ridiculed and physically assaulted by Arabs. So you see all the various sources we're reading about the same thing. And no Christian groups talk about this. Yeah, you love everybody, you're full of it. Egyptian writer Mona Eltawai, whatever, has written about watching a Sudanese girl being assaulted and tormented on the Cairo Metro. That's the train system in Egypt. And concluding, we are racist people in Egypt and we are in deep denial. She says the Arab world has ignored the suffering of Darfur because the victims are black. We only pay attention when America and Israel behave badly. Okay, Muslim slave trade in Africa has lasted. Okay, good. Wait. Over 7. Love stuff. Let me read this. Hey, can you read it for me? I'm tired.
Muslim slave trade in Africa has lasted 14 centuries and continues to this day in places like Mauritania, Saudi Arabia, and Sudan.
Assalamu alaikum, my nigga.
Over 17 million slaves, mostly black women and children, were transported out of Africa by Islamic traders. Another 85 million are believed to have died en route. The Prophet Muhammad practiced and approved of slavery and directed his men to do the same. The Quran devotes more verses to informing Muslim men of their right to keep women as sex slaves than it does to telling them to pray 5 times a day. The Arabic word for black, abd, is synonymous with the word for a slave. Muhammad's father-in-law, Umar, declared that Arabs could not be taken as slaves and freed all Arab slaves. This led to the wide Islamic campaign to capture slaves in Africa, Europe, and Asia.
Now you see that part where it says Muhammad, go back. Muhammad's father-in-law, Umar, declared that Arabs could not be taken because we had them as slaves. When we were the Moors ruling, we did have them as slaves. And guess what? To all my Arab friends out there, Allah Akbar, we will enslave you again under the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Understand that. We coming for you, Ishmael. And Edom, you ain't getting away.
Also, notice it says to capture slaves in Africa, Europe, and Asia. To capture them means that we were there. That means Israel was in these areas, and they took us as slaves from these areas, which includes the Moors in Europe and Asia and Africa. All right?
Western slave trade exploited Africans primarily for agricultural labor. The Arab slave trade, on the other hand, has more often used men for military service and women for sex and for their wombs to produce children who will be Muslims. Many Muslim leaders since Muhammad have had harems of hundreds or even thousands of non-Muslim young girls and women to service their desires. Converting to Islam does not automatically grant a slave his freedom, although this is said to increase the slave master's heavenly reward. According to Islamic courts, slave masters may treat their slaves however they choose without fear or of penalty. Arabs hate black people, and that is not from today. It is in their blood. Abu Bakr.
Wait, the proof is we read it in the Bible. They've been warring against us from the time of old. And this was written over 3,000 years ago.
Arabs hate black people, and that is not from today. It is in their blood. Abu Bakr, a young man from Senegal who was hoping eventually to cross over into Europe, told the reporter for RNW, Radio Netherlands Worldwide, "Friends of mine were attacked with a knife. Bandits target us because they know we cannot go to the police. Even if we are robbed and hurt, having no papers, we will be caught instead. Blacks have no right here." Racist attitudes are also evident in other ways. Suleiman from Guinea Conakry is angry that Moroccans call him African in a negative way. They should consider us African brothers, he says. It is different when a European calls you African, or when another African does. Abubakar is also insulted that Moroccans cannot believe many of us are Muslims too. According to him, people are surprised when